Common, the guy who dresses them. He's going to be here as well to talk to us. But first, coming up, crossfire debate. Jim, what do we have in store?
Chelsea, we have a really special guy who'll be our first guest, Bobbie Ragsdale. Captain Ragsdale went to West Point. He was the student body president there, actually class president, and he has some thoughts about the possibility of West Point allowing athletes to participate there and then not have to have a service obligation. Now, this would make Army and Navy probably overnight national football powers. But Captain Ragsdale doesn't like this, and we'll find out why very soon.
Thanks, Jim. And coming up right after the break, we have that and a whole lot more, so don't touch that dial. We'll be right back.
This is Jim Engster. Welcome back to Tiger Rag Television. And in our Crossfire segment this week, we're giving Glenn Guilbeau a hiatus. Captain Bobbie Ragsdale is with us. He's a New Orleanian, kind of, graduate of Isidore Newman, class of 2003, where he was student body president. Also went to West Point, where he was class president, 2007. He is class president of the class of that year. And went to Harvard University and has a master's degree from the Kennedy School and was vice president of the student body at the Kennedy School. So if ever there were a five-star recruit for politics, this man is the guy. And before we get to the topic at hand, a West Point guy won re-election a few days ago as governor of Louisiana. Your thoughts about the re-election of John Bel Edwards?
He sure did. Governor Edwards is, I think, a good man. I think he represents the Academy well. We love to see West Pointers going out and doing great things in the world. So I think he's a great ambassador for the brand, and I think he's good for Louisiana. I think that he is a moral person who represents the values that we try to espouse. So
now, I talked to him about the topic we're going to discuss, and it involves the President of the United States. And as we know, those two are not on the same page right now, and they're not on the same page on this. The President is proposing that the military academies, West Point in particular, do away with the requirement after graduation for military service for athletes. And of course, that would possibly make Army an overnight contender for the national title. They won 3 national championships in football in the 1940s, have 3 Heisman Trophy winners. But now it's hard to get five-star recruits to go to West Point because of that requirement. What do you think about this possibility? The governor's against it. The president says he's considering it, and as president, commander-in-chief, he has the power to do it. What do you think?
I've had this conversation a lot of times with my classmates and other graduates of the Academy over the years, and I hold what is an unpopular opinion similar to the governor. I don't think it should be done. I think that the mission of the Academy is not to produce football players, it's to produce leaders and servants to the nation. In fact, the mission of West Point is to educate, train, and inspire the Corps of Cadets to lifetimes of professional excellence and service to the nation as an officer in the United States Army. And it doesn't say anything about being a professional athlete in there. I don't think that there's anything about being a brand ambassador or athletic recruit or television personality that counteracts the value of contributing our top talent to being officers in the military. And the athletics are such an important part to life at the academies for all cadets. Every cadet must be an athlete. It's the same for the other academies as well. Douglas MacArthur said, "Upon these fields of friendly strife are sown the seeds that on other fields, on other days, will bear the fruits of victory." In other words, the things we learn on the athletic field make us better leaders. We learn to push through hardship. We learn physical exertion. We learn leadership. And those things are valuable to the country. This is a taxpayer-funded institution by making the absolute best officers in the Army, Air Force, Marines, Navy, you name it. I don't think that, though there is value added to having professional athletes come out of the service academies, I don't think that value is counteracted by the cost to the mission and to the reputation of the academies.
Now, of course, it would bring great acclaim to a military academy if Army were to play for a national title again. It's in the New York television market, so we're talking about the #1 market in America. Look at the teams now that are at the top of the charts, the top of the polls when it comes to voting. LSU's #1 in the AP poll.
Sure.
And that's Baton Rouge. And #2 is Ohio State, Columbus, Ohio. We're not talking about big markets, but there would be a huge appetite for Army and Navy, which is in the Washington, D.C. market if this were to happen. And some people say, hey, a lot of these five-star recruits from all over the country would love to go to one of these academies, and their parents might like it even better. What do you think about the positive side of this? Because there is an upside to it.
Well, I think three things. So first off, go Tigers. Okay, so I think it's great time to be in Louisiana right now. Two, the game has fundamentally changed over the years. So in the 40s, when West Point was winning national championships and Heisman trophies, football in college was people went to college, and then while I'm here, I'll try and play football. We had started getting the ball rolling on recruiting and so forth, but it was basically pulling from, like high school athletics are, you pull from the student body. And if that's the case, who's going to have the best athletes but the service academies? On a per capita basis, are all athletes. So it makes sense that at that day and time, West Point Navy produced some of the best athletic prospects and won national championships. Today, college ball is largely, at least for football and some of the biggest sports, is a farm league for the professionals. And I think a lot of us see that, and there's a tremendous amount of money that does go into these programs, and these programs can produce. And in fact, cadets today benefit from the money that the Army football program brings in. I can't deny that. So I think this would add a lot to that. It would bring in better recruits. It would, but the third point is the experience at the academies, even though it is modified for athletes, especially football players, and it has been that way for many times. Their experience over the 47 months at West Point are similar, but in many ways different from your average cadet. That's only going to be more pronounced as something like this happens. But even still, the experience is fundamentally different in an inexorable way from going to LSU or the Ohio State or Georgia or something like that. You're still going to be wearing a uniform, living in the barracks, and I don't think that every athletic recruit is going to be open to that sort of lifestyle.
But Army is pretty good right now with the rules as they are. In fact, they're probably a top 30, maybe even top 20 team. They're very good, and this would only enable them to get better. They're going to play at LSU in the year of 2023, which ironically will be the end of the second term of John Bell Edwards. And I would imagine if this rule were changed, that game could be quite competitive in 2023. Bobbie, you said some of your classmates have a different opinion than you. Are there a lot of people who you went to school with who say, hey, this might not be such a bad idea?
Yeah, absolutely. A lot of both my peers and what we call old grads, the guys who've been the generals and older folks who've been around. I think a lot of people are nostalgic for the old days of Army football, and I don't blame them. But and I think they are, with respect to them, I think they can be short-sighted in their desire for a winning Army football program. Now, they do have good arguments. So the argument is regularly put to me that athletes bring an additional value. They make better officers, they make better cadets, which is, we usually have the conversation about athletic recruiting in general, and to that I agree. Although it's curious that as student body president in high school, no one recruited me to go to West Point. And I knew two 1600s on the SATs. No one recruited them to go to West Point. But the captain of my football team, he got visited by a recruit. And that's all private money funds the athletic recruiting, so I don't really object to it. But I wonder what our priorities are and why we aren't trying to bring in a more holistic group of people to the academies to better represent the military. So, but the point that people will regularly make is that these people will do great things for Army recruiting. They'll bring pride to the academy, pride to the services, and I think that's all correct. I absolutely believe that. That is 100% true, and I've known some of these players who've been on the chopping block, like the cusp of will they or won't they. The superintendent usually backs it up when the NFL tries to step in. Sometimes the Secretary of Army steps in, but it's often the Secretary of Defense. And Jim Mattis at one point said no and put the kibosh on it. I've seen that happen a couple of times. So if the president intervenes, it's going to happen, but we'll have to see.
Well, the president likely will do this in a second term, and he's got to win re-election to do that, and that's touch and go. But we'll see what happens, but it'll be fascinating because this could be a big boon for college football, obviously, to get into the New York and Washington markets with Army and Navy. Thanks for your service, Captain Bobbie Ragsdale, who is a graduate of West Point, class president, 2007.
That's right, yeah.
West Point, and you went to war for our country as well.
I did.
And won the Bronze Star. So we appreciate what you've done for the country. And remember the name. This guy has a future in Louisiana politics, Captain Ragsdale. It's been a pleasure. We'll be back after this with more Tiger Rag Television right here.